The gymnasium smelled like floor wax and construction paper, 300 folding chairs filled with parents who had come to watch their kids sing off-key holiday songs, and I was standing at the back near the exit the way I always did, close enough that Wren could find me if she needed to, far enough that I wasn't hovering. 5 years of an unspoken deal between us. She was in the second row of risers, 10th from the left, mouthing the words to a song she wasn't singing, the way she'd mouthed the words to every song, every pledge, every roll call, since she was 5 years old and stopped speaking 3 days after the accident that took her father. I was watching her face when her head turned, not toward the music teacher, toward the side door, where a man had just stepped in out of the cold, unzipping a coat, scanning the crowd for a seat like any other latecomer. Wren stopped mouthing the words. She lifted her hand off her side, slow, like it cost her something, and she pointed. I followed the line of her arm to where it ended, and the man had gone still in the doorway, coat half off one shoulder, staring back at her the way you stare at something you're afraid will disappear if you blink. I hadn't seen that face in 5 years. I had buried that face in a service with a closed casket because there hadn't been enough left of the car to open one. My name is Yolanda Price. I am a guidance counselor at the same high school I graduated from, and for 5 years I built my entire life around one fragile, unbroken thing, a routine steady enough that my daughter never had a reason to be afraid of what came next. Breakfast at 7, the same drive to school, the same seat at the kitchen table facing the window, because facing the door made her flinch for reasons she never explained and I never made her try. I built that life on the certainty that Micah was dead. I did not run to him. I stood frozen at the back of a room full of children singing Silent Night off-key, while my daughter's arm stayed raised, pointing at a dead man, and everything I had built for 5 years quietly came apart at the seams. Nobody in that gymnasium noticed but the 2 of us and him. The song ended, the applause started, Wren's arm came down, and for the first time in 5 years, in a voice I'd almost forgotten the pitch of, she said one word: "Daddy." I got her out before anyone could ask questions. I don't remember the drive home. I remember Wren in the back seat, both hands pressed flat against the window, saying nothing else, the single word already spent, already retreated back into whatever quiet place she'd kept her voice for 5 years. He found us 3 days later through a note left with the school office. "I'm not asking for anything. I need 5 minutes." I gave him 15 at a diner 2 towns over where nobody would recognize either of us. Wren stayed home with my sister, who thought I was meeting a lawyer about an old insurance claim. Micah looked older than 5 years should account for. A scar ran along his jaw that hadn't been there before. His left hand moved carefully, like it had been rebuilt and hadn't fully agreed to the terms. 11 surgeries, he told me. 8 months where he didn't remember his own name, let alone hers. By the time memory came back in pieces, Wren's laugh before her name, the color of our old kitchen before the address, the story of his death had already calcified into paperwork, a headstone his own mother chose because nobody thought to ask if it was true. "I could have found a way back sooner," he said. I told myself I couldn't. That's not the same thing. I did not forgive him in that diner. I asked him 100 small, ordinary questions instead. Where he'd been living, who paid for the surgeries, whether he understood that Wren stopped speaking 3 days after she watched paramedics pull him from a car she still, 5 years later, could not describe out loud. He answered every one without flinching, which was its own kind of answer. Wren's therapist, Dr. Achebe, told me something I hadn't expected, that Wren's silence had never been about grief alone. She had seen something in the wreckage that no official report accounted for. She had seen her father's eyes open. She told no one for 5 years, because at 5 years old, the only sentence available to her, "Daddy's not really gone," sounded even to her own ears like the kind of thing that gets a child sent to more rooms with more quiet-voiced questions. So she buried it the same way the rest of us buried an empty casket and waited 5 years for a version of the truth she could trust enough to say out loud. It didn't come back all at once. It came sideways. Notes left on the fridge, one-word answers to yes or no questions, a slow unclenching Dr. Achebe told me not to rush. Micah didn't move back in. He rents an apartment 2 miles from us. He sees Wren on Wednesdays and every other weekend, supervised at first, then not, as trust rebuilt itself. In small increments. Neither of us tried to hurry. Some nights, Wren asks questions about him I don't have good answers for. Some nights, she doesn't want to talk about him at all, and I let her have that. Last week, she sang at the winter concert, actually sang, off-key in exactly the way 10-year-olds are supposed to be off-key. No mouthing, no careful performance of belonging. I sat in the back, near the exit, the way I always do. Micah sat 2 rows in front of me, close enough that she could find both our faces without turning her head too far in either direction. After the concert, in the parking lot, Wren took my hand with one of hers and reached for his with the other and walked between us to the car without saying anything at all. Not because she couldn't, because for once she didn't need to.